Αγαπητοί φίλοι και φίλες, καλησπέρα. Καλώς ορίσατε στην εκπομπή Υγεία και Ευεξία. Το σημερινό μας θέμα είναι η ανορεξία και φιλοξενούμενός μας είναι ο Felix Economakis, ευτύχιος στα ελληνικά, και είναι Chartered Counselling Psychologist και Clinical Hypnotist. Hello, Felix.
Hello,
It's nice to have you with us. Kalispera.
Nice to be here. Kalispera, Kalispera. So I just want to say to your viewers, my parents are Greek. I grew up speaking Greek at home, but mostly English school. So I cannot do therapy in Greek. It's way beyond my skills. It's very, very light conversational Greek. So I understand mentality, but just to put that there. But you can say those in Greek.
Thank you for the clarification, Felix.
Pleasure.
Can I ask you about your title before we go to our topic? Can you tell us what is the difference, chartered counseling psychologist and clinical hypnotist? What is the difference between other psychotherapists or psychologists?
Oh, that's a big topic. There's a difference between a clinical psychologist and a counseling psychologist. We have different, we learn the same models, CBT, systemic therapy, but we have a different philosophy. So clinical psychologist is a little bit more influenced by a medical model of human disease. And we're a little bit more influenced by a more humanistic model. So we see things in terms of a system of things. And I'm looking for the roots of things, more interactions with human behavior rather than medical, biological diseases. Now, there's room for both, but I'm interested in more of diseases caused by human needs not being met in interactions rather than brain imbalances and things like that. So it's just my preference. I lean towards that, so I started in that, but it's the same. Similar training, just different outlook, shall we say. Hypnotism is something I did on the side. I just found it really interesting and, practiced it. But a lot of my clients are actually very scared of it. So I do my own modified version. Formal hypnosis is very scary for people. And, I like to get a result in 1 or 2 sessions. And sometimes you need more time just to build trust in you. I don't have that time. So I do a variation. I do my own version.
So what can you treat or try to treat with the hypnotist?
So the way I look at hypnosis is I like to do the main work in the preparation. And at the end, I do a bit of open version hypnosis. And that amplifies everything. It just helps get things in there. People are more receptive if it's explained to them in this way. So we have right brain therapies, which are more creative, imaginative, like hypnosis, NLP, and things like that. And we have more left brain traditional therapies, more logical, analytical, and many of the psychoanalysis, obviously, and psychotherapies as well. But as I say to people, the problem is the subconscious mind is not a great fan of logic, because if it were, I wouldn't have any clients for this. People would say, this is illogical, I'll just make it logical. I think I'm speaking its language more with my training hypnosis. I know how to get through to a person a lot quicker, because really my client, if you're my client, Vasula, your subconscious mind is my client, not your adult, intelligent, logical mind. You know the problem. I'm speaking to an emotional part of you that says, but I don't want to be fat, but I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. That's the part we need to convince, and to convince quickly. So I've learned a lot from hypnosis about understanding the subconscious mind and using that knowledge to communicate with it quicker, but it doesn't have to be with hypnosis. Everybody thinks hypnosis is you'll hypnotize me and make me change, because you see, it doesn't really work like that, I have to say. You have to do a lot of negotiation first. If someone is determined or doesn't want to believe in what I'm selling, then hypnosis or not, they can be hypnotized and relaxed. They can be hypnotized and, show some phenomena, but they still might not change if fundamentally they don't believe it, trust it, or are won over, shall we say. So, people say to me, can you see my daughter and son and hypnotize them to change? Well, no, I can change them another way, of which this is an adjunct, shall we say.
you need to work with your client really to get the result.
Yeah, I do, because, you know, I'm a psychologist as well. I'm mainly a psychologist. So in the beginning, when I learned hypnosis, and I said, by the way, at the end, I like to do a little bit of this sort of hypnosis. Oh, what is that? I don't want, you know, well, can I keep my eyes open? So a lot of people don't want to be hypnotized, they don't trust it, but I still did it because I was just practicing and learning. And I finally just had better results that way. But a conventional hypnotherapist will spend most of the session doing hypnosis, you know, like 1 hour or 1 hour and a half or something, really long, really deep. I do 15 minutes at the end. You know, the majority of my session is preparation. For me, the last 15 minutes is consolidating everything going in. And by then they know me, I've sold ideas, negotiated. By then it's sort of easier. There's less work, there's less convincing because I've already done the work. So you don't have to have somebody super relaxed and then keep saying stuff and hopefully it goes in. I've already done that preparation process. It's just an amplifier towards the end. Yeah.
Thank you, Felix. So let's go to our topic, which is anorexia, as I said. What is actually anorexia, Felix? What is defined as anorexia?
Now, it depends on different schools of thought, because some people would, and also depends on the type of anorexia. In some ways, some people, for anorexia, it's like a phobia of food, of calories from food. So they're actually phobic. Some people act more like an addiction and a compulsion in some other ways. Yeah. So it kind of depends on the person. And so what I do is I say to, ultimately, it's a fear of putting on unwanted calories. And one of the things of anorexia is black or white thinking. It's actually a problem for most conditions, but it's especially a big deal with anorexia because the black or white thinking makes people very rigid. So people think, for example, either I have anorexia or I will swell up and be fat. You know, that it's very difficult to conceive of a middle ground with them. So they think they need an eating disorder in order to keep them in control and control the weight so they don't become fat. You know, I explain to them, no, I'm slim. You know, I'm in good shape for my age. I don't need an eating disorder to be slim. Do you know anyone who's slim, has a nice figure? Do they have an eating disorder? You can have it without an eating disorder. But your illusion is that you think unless I have anorexia, I'm going to eat everything, I'm going to be a slob, I'm going to balloon in weight. It just doesn't work like that. You have to point out to people, you know, your fear of it works this simply is very simple and actually works more like this. So I start to educate them. You know, your fears are unwarranted. You know, they're unfounded because it doesn't need to work this way. Yeah. So I give them an example. I say, what I'd like to do, rather than being afraid that you can't control food and need anorexia, I'm going to teach you that all you need instead of fear, you need respect. Yeah. So I make this point. When I was 5 years old, my mother used to say to me, if you run ahead of me, stop at the road, you'll get hit by a car. When I'm 5 years old, I don't really understand signs and roads, so I really understand stop or you die. That works really well. But as we grow older, we transform fear into respect. When a car stops, we look at the lights, we calmly cross the road. Why do we need fear? Yeah? What's fear going to do? I say, well, I know how to work the lights and when to stop. So in the same way, you don't trust yourself to be slim without fear. Yeah. And I want to prove to you, you can be slim without fear. Yeah. I like being slim. Be slim. I think slimming looks nice than being overweight. Yeah. I want you to be slim, but you don't need to do it this way. So that's one thing I do. The other thing is I work with a metaphorical part of the mind. So I work with a depressed part, a phobic part, a stop smoking part, an anorexic part. Now, a lot of people who've tried other therapies, they'll say to me, oh, my therapist said, this is the demon, this is the snake, and tell them apart, you know. And I think that's really disrespectful because your subconscious mind is not a demon, it's not your enemy, it's trying to help you. You just don't understand the way it's trying to help you. So it comes across as malicious when it's not. Actually, this part needs good information, needs good guidance. Yeah, maybe it's traumatized by something and is jumping to help you in an unhelpful way. Yeah, like in other areas of our life, it's and we can guide it to do something better. But I don't like this idea of blaming and being angry and, close it off and don't feed it. And, this is the snake and the demon. It's it's not how I work at all. I find it very disrespectful. Yeah. So I work with a part of the mind and say, you need to give your mind, because you're its boss, clear goals about what you want. The problem with you, I say to my client, you're giving your mind impossible goals. Oh, I don't want anorexia as long as I don't eat any more food. Yeah? So I want to eat as long as I don't eat. Is that okay? Can you make that happen? No, it's an impossible goal. Yeah. Clarify with you, what exactly do you want to happen that's realistic and possible? But don't confuse your mind. I want to smoke as long as I don't smoke as long as I keep smoking. Is that okay? No, your mind is confused. So we're doing the same thing here. Did you get it? So,
yes, yeah. Felix, of course, I don't want to put weight. I want to be slim. But I know that if I become anorexic, my brain is telling me that I can be really unhealthy, that I can suffer, I guess, from many other problems, physical problems. So I'm not choosing to be, I don't want to be anorexic. So how comes these people who suffer from anorexia don't realize that they can end up having even serious problems, I guess, by being anorexic? So
I mean, the way I look at it, I work with couples. I do counselling as well, people who argue and stuff. And a lot of what I found in real life couples, husband and wife, works the same with our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Yeah. So often people are like, why do we keep arguing? We should, we love each other, but we don't. Yeah. You've got miscommunication, misunderstanding. But if somebody helps you to understand each other better, you stop arguing. And in the same way, you can do that with your anorexic part. It doesn't have to be this way, but it's not, it's your relationship with that part. That's the problem. The fact that it thinks food is a problem, is a problem, spiders are, cats are a problem, it's not actually the problem. That can all be cleared up, So when a person says, my mind is, say, look, your mind, okay, has had a lot of worry, usually during child and teenage years. It's all the girls are talking about this. You see all these models on TV and Kim Kardashian, all these people, and you want to be liked, you want to be approved. Life feels a better control. Your body's changing. You're doing, exams. All these things are happening, feeling out of control. And the one thing you can control sometimes is, if I control my weight, I'm going to be slimmer. Everyone's going to love me. My life will be happy. I feel more in control. What's not to like about that? So the mind is listening, going, let me make this happen. The problem is it's excessive. It's black or white thinking. It doesn't know when to stop. I want to do those things, but I sort of, I'm not a model or anything, so I don't do it to extreme levels. But a lot of people don't know when to stop and to have something balanced with that. Yeah. And meanwhile, your mind is thinking, you told me if we're fat, we're unhappy and everyone's going to hate us. So I'm going to keep doing this. Yeah, because I'm scared of not doing it. That's the part I need to help. And it's not going to happen by blaming and criticism and stuff. It's by building a rapport with this part in such a way that it trusts me to lead it to do something else. That's how I do it.
Would you say that anorexia is a mental illness?
Well, it's all a mental illness.
Yes.
Do you mean like,
because the way you present it is okay, it's how can I say, yes, it's in the brain is getting confused, the mind is getting confused, but for the mind to get confused, I think must be something wrong with the mind to get confused.
No, not really.
Not necessarily.
I have a good relationship with my wife, but I'm confused quite a lot. And she confuses me, I confuse her, but it doesn't mean the relationship is bad. We just need to communicate better. Yeah. Now, look, if you have a person who's a bit autistic, a little bit black and white thinking as well, and doesn't, very rigid, very scared of this, by temperament, they way more than more black and white, but fine, you got a harder case to deal with because there's other issues. But anorexia itself is doable. I've helped people in 3 sessions, you know, do a big turnaround. And when I say 3 sessions, I mean an hour and a half an hour and half an hour, by doing some simple things. Now, is everyone the same kind of client? No. I have really hard cases, and you've got like other cases where you know that you can make some leverage and you know, a bit more. So it does depend on the client as well. Yeah, it's not actually the same for everybody across the board. There's also what other baggage goes with that for a person. So am I dealing with simple anorexia, straightforward confusion, trauma, scared, low control, or am I dealing with also personality type that is, you're right, I agree, everyone agrees on this bad, but I'm still doing it despite this. I know I'm going to die, but you know, I just know better the devil you know, that kind of mentality is, if I will say to a person, I've told you now, but you also have to do your bit, which is you have to give your mind a goal that you know will make you healthy and works, and then I can help you there. But if you just keep the impossible goal, like, I believe you, but I don't want to do what you suggest, I'm just going to do the same thing and hope it happens one day, that's a lot riskier. Yeah, there comes a point, people grow out of it. A lot of people had anorexia when I was young. Then I had bulimia, but then I grew out of those things. You can grow out of them in some cases, but in extreme cases, people starve themselves to death. And those are the ones that are obviously harder to treat because it's comorbid with other things, you know.
Felix, you mentioned, bulimia. Is this a type of anorexia or is it something different? What is the difference?
Bulimia usually involves some kind of purging, which is vomiting or taking laxatives. And that's a way of eating food without worrying about the weight. So it's trying to cheat the system. You know, I can eat, but I don't put away. I get to eat though. Yeah. And it can be a little bit more intense because people can go in real binging cycles to think about the food. I mean, a lot of anorexics think about food. They just don't eat it and exercise a lot. But in bulimia, they think about the food. They go on these binges. And because their mind is very confused through, you know, cycles, some starvation cycles, they look forward to it. They want to eat it because they know then they won't for a while and then they'll purge it. And, you know, once again, I look at it as confusion. Your mind is really confused about what exactly you want to do. So you're confusing its rhythms and its balance in such a way that you don't know when you're hungry. You do this now out of habit. And, you know, you don't know when you're full enough, so you stop eating. You just do this because it's a habit, and you're looking forward to your binge, and it's become a thing now because you've made it a thing. So I treat it in a different way, you know, to some mainstream theory. Basically, this is going to scare your client, but apart from doing the usual module on eating disorders in training, what I was having a lot of success with my approach in other areas, and people say, oh, you know, you helped my son, can you see my daughter for this? Look, I can use my approach, see what happens. I was having good success, so I approached it from my way, you know, self-taught. I wasn't setting myself up as an eating disorder specialist. I just found I was getting good results. So I kept saying, look, this is how I work with it. If you go to an eating disorders clinic, they'll use a different approach. But I come at it from a different point of view in these ways. Let's have one session. I don't tie you into 6 sessions. I have one session. If you like what I'm saying and resonates with you, we'll work together. And if you don't, that's fine. Yeah.
So is it only one type of anorexia, Felix, or do we have like different types? Because I came across this nebrosa anorexia or binging, or, you know, so it's a bit confusing sometimes, but it could be just one, but with little details that,
I mean, because everyone's a little bit different about it, I'm not such a great fan of diagnoses, you know, because I worked in the NHS here, the GP surgery. I get a referral with all these conditions. I thought, oh my God, you know, look at this person. And they come and say, oh no, that's fine. I'm actually worried about this. And, you know, you work on one thing and a lot of other things clear up, to just think, well, you know, really it's about the person. So when I work with anorexia, bulimia, I find out, okay, I want to speak the part of your mind. What's that part trying to do for you? I'm trying to feel in control. I don't want to put on weight. So much happier when I'm slimmer. I find the misunderstanding, the block, and then I use my approaches to sort of work through that and point out a better way of looking at it, a better way of behaving without the problems of the old way. So, you know, I have, if you talk to somebody who's educated in anorexia, they'll give you a whole list of, you know, much more impressive academic kind of definitions of criteria. But, you know, I do my thing. I say, look, if you see me, I'm going to work at it from the point of view of clarification to your mind, finding your unmet needs, offering your mind better ways to fulfill those needs, seeing what happens. And if you think that makes sense to me and, you know, I'm seeing improvement, then great. If you say no, nothing, something else, then you need somebody who specializes in your particular block. But, you know, I don't really do psychotherapy. So I have an approach, and when people understand it, which they usually able to do 1, 2, 3 sessions, results follow. If they're not getting it by then they're probably not, you know, suitable for my approach.
Yes. Yeah. So what are the signs of anorexia? Have a child. I mean, what are the first signs that I need to see to think, oh, maybe he is or she is anorexic?
Well, apart from obviously, you know, they start to look too thin, lots of exercise. They can get obsessed about exercise, you know, so they eat and then they walk and put weights on and everything. So lots of calorie counting, lots of exercise. They might even be very interested in food. They might make food for other people and talk about it and think about it, but not eat it. Makes excuses not to eat, eating just a little bit, claiming they're full. You know, all these kinds of being panicked if there's an occasion, a celebration, let's all eat this, let's all eat cake. I mean, they might eat it, but they might exercise like crazy afterwards. So the main fear is they're afraid that they feel like they're in control. It's the illusion of control. And they're afraid that if you do something, you might stop them doing it. And so they're sometimes worried about opening up to you because they think you might try and stop them, whereas they feel they need to do their thing. So I never do a direct approach with somebody. I do very indirect approaches, and I just say, you know what, whatever level you're ready to understand and listen to, you will do. I can't make you eat more or less or anything. I'm just going to explain to you how to direct your mind in a way I know is useful. And it's up to you how much or how little you want to do with that. Because I want to take away any threat from, oh, this man's going to hypnotize me and make me stop. I'm not ready and it's scary. It's basically, you know, my approach in many ways, Vasula, is actually quite straightforward. The real art of brain therapy is understanding human dynamics. It's like a chess game. It's like a dance. And if you know your partner's moves and what to anticipate and where they're at, you can preempt it, you can guess it, and you can cover it. So, you know, my therapy, someone comes in very nervous. I do a lot of things to diffuse the tension, to, you know, overcome resistance. All the while, you know, I'm saying, don't worry, you're in control. Don't take your own time. And by the way, you know, this is doable when you're ready. And, you know, other people worse than you have done it. And all the while we're building this case of people going, oh, so it's not how I thought it was going to be. And it's actually what you're saying is interesting. I thought about it that way. And actually, I would like that. That's what we're doing. We're giving them opportunity to learn things in new ways without the usual resistance and interference. Yeah. So they're intrigued. And how much they do afterwards is up to them. But I don't want to come in and say, this is bad, you've got to stop, because that's what everyone else does. And they say, no, you know, don't take away my thing from me. I say, you've got to do what you've got to do, but you're doing it this way. Have you ever thought about doing this way? Yeah? So how you handle is.
Yes. Yeah. Felix, I came across one of your videos and I saw that you brought food in your clinic, pizzas. So, and then you ask your client to try it. So I assume, because I only watched it briefly, you know, I assume that it was something that your client couldn't eat before. And then that was the big day to give it a go. And And I noticed they said, oh, yes, it's not bad, it's good, you know.
Yeah.
So what happened before?
Well, that's something different called fear, which is a fear of food. Not calories, but the texture and the smell and the feeling.
That's different thing.
Yeah, so there's different eating disorders. So that's different. People want to put on weight. People want to be better at sports, and you know they're fed up of being skinny, and they want to, but they're just terrified that if they eat the food, they'll gag or throw up. So you see different variations. And bulimia, they have a problem throwing up. they do it 3 times a day. So yeah, eating disorders are actually very, very different.
Sure. Okay, and with the anorexia, do we see any changes in the behavior? You know, the mood, or general?
Because you're messing around with neurotransmitters, and also the harder type is very obsessive as well, you know. So and the rigidity goes with that. So it's like, I need my way. So, you know, OCD, I have to do my ritual. If I don't do my ritual, I'll get stressed because it needs to be done this way. And anorexia is, I eat this way, count my calories, do my exercise. That's why it's got a compulsion element in some cases too. Can have an OCD type element to it as well. So, you know, I'd say straightforward anorexia, easier anorexia, is typically a young girl, could be a boy, but still most girls. Typically teenage years, life is getting out of control. There's a lot of social pressure to be slim and, you know, and do that, and it feels like in control. It's also, at the moment, having a mental health problem is kind of cool. You know, people are boasting about them, and I've got more than you, you know, it's just a new development. So it fulfills all these kind of functions at the moment. And, you know, that's just someone being young, trying to get the needs met in an unhelpful way, not knowing anything better, just believing society, not really critiquing in some way. And before you know, you develop some bad habits, asking people to detrain like a cult to get out in some way. That's straightforward work for me, and quite easy in a way. Yeah. If I have somebody who's comorbid with other personality disorders, just rigid, you can see in their mind that they don't really compute, you know, they're not really integrating information. They're just sort of almost blank expression. That's a problem because it's not actually computing. And the other one is occasionally you meet a person who sits there smiling, like, everybody's changed me and I'm winning, you know. Even if you say, well, you know, if you keep doing this, you may end up dying, or you do this, and you can see in their face they're thinking, I have greater resolve. No one's going to talk me out of it, you know. I'm not going to have an inch of fat on me. I've decided to do this. No one's going to, you know, I'm stronger than you. I'm smarter than you. You won't change me. And they make it into something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty hard, because where they are, if they think they're right and they don't care and they're smarter than you, you know, they know how to, you know, sure. But I just point out to people, no, I can't change you. You know, you've got free will. All I can point out, if you're going to make a big decision in your life that could lead to death, you should make an informed decision. You know, if you're going to spend £1,000 on a laptop, you should kind of know what you're buying. You know, it's a big decision. You should do that even more with your life. And at the moment, you made this decision in death. How much do you know about it? How informed is that decision? Do you need to review it occasionally? Shall we look at it, see if there's something better we can do? But if you did to do this, I guess you're going to do it, you know. I can't stop you. So one of the things I do in therapy is I admit my powerlessness. I want to make a person feel, you're stronger than me. Yeah? That's not a competition. So let's forget that. I'm going to, right from the beginning, you win this battle. I don't want to fight you. I want to educate you, and then do what you want. Yeah? The nice thing about being, I have that mentality, do this or that, you know, you do this or this, make up your mind, you got free will, it's a democracy. You know, I can bring that approach a little bit to it. Not like I'm going to chase you up and nag you and beg, plead you to change. I don't do that. Yeah. And that's what they're expecting sometimes and ready for. I just don't do that. I make a person feel responsible by only you can change your mind, only you can do this or that. I hope you do this, but it's up to you. You've got to learn. Either you do it the smart way or you do it the stupid way. If you do it the stupid way, you're going to have a lot of problems. It's like, you could pay off a loan now, or you could keep it growing with debt and interest, or you could just pay off now instead of going on another way, right? That's a stupid decision. It's your money. So
yes. Felix, because we are running out of time, I would like you to, I know there's a lot to talk actually, but I would love to have you back.
Sure.
And tell us about, the other therapies you're doing, treatments, what you can treat as well. But for today, can you tell us how and where we can find you?
Yes, so now would be best if you just search for the Heath therapies. Heath from Hampstead Heath. It's just, like the image in my mind. That, or search for me, Felix Economakis eating disorder, something like that. Google will come up with my name. And email is best. By the way, check your emails, because for some reason, a lot of my emails go into spam. So people say, I contacted you a month ago and never got back to me. I will always get back to you in 48 hours. It's the point of pride. So hearing from me, check the spam. But yeah, that's emails the way to go. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Felix. Thank you. And I hope to have you back, to carry on our conversation and tell us more about all these interesting topics.
Lovely. My pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Αγαπητοί φίλοι και φίλες, εμείς θα τα πούμε και πάλι την ερχόμενη Πέμπτη με ένα καινούριο θέμα, ένα καινούριο φιλοξενούμενο. Καλό σας βράδυ.